Hey, happy Friday, everyone. It is Debbie De Grote here, CEO and co-founder of Forward Coaching. I was with Shaun on another meeting earlier, so I'm not sure that he's going to be able to join us today, but that's okay. We can get this party started without him. And we're going to talk today about how to win in the multiple interview situation with a seller. And I know this is one that many times you encounter. Hey, there you are, Shaun. We're just getting the party started. I told him you were on the way. And if you guys would do us a favor and maybe type into the chat box, just so we know you can hear us all loud and clear, where you're from, and maybe even a challenge that you're having around this topic of multiple interview. Maybe what caused you to want to join the webinar today, so that if I don't cover it in my content, we will circle back to your question at the end. Hey, Shaun, anything you wanted to say before we get rolling here?
Debbie, great to see you. Happy Friday to you and to everyone out there. Really glad that people can join us on a Friday. Super excited about this week. We just got off a call this morning talking a little bit about the market and what's going to be happening in 2024. And I'm optimistic. I'm really excited about some of the things that we're hearing about the market. And talking about a multiple interview today, I think, is a relevant topic for each member that's here with us today. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the reason it's so relevant is until we start to see rates moving down, which we will in the future, but we got a few months till we really get there. Sellers are still sitting on the fence, a good majority of sellers, which means that when you get that opportunity to go in on a great listing appointment, gosh, we really need to be in it to win it, right? And often we will be in a multiple interview situation. I sold real estate for 16 years here in LA and Orange County. In that time, I closed over 3,000 transactions. And because I was a young, started at 18 and new agent, many of those situations were multiple interview. And I was up against some of the most seasoned veterans. And I know some of you are facing that in your business as well. So many, if not most sellers, will interview. Now, granted, you may have past clients, sphere of influence that absolutely love you, but even sometimes they will surprise you and they will be interviewing. So I feel that we need to go into this new year saying, I have to up my game. I have to assume, many of you are football fans, I'm sure, and the quarterback of a football team, the Tom Brady, if you will, would never go into a game assuming it was just going to be easy to win it, right? We would always go in assuming we have to be incredibly well prepared and we may be competing. And because customer loyalty is not what it used to be, I do feel you should do some sort, doesn't have to be hours long, but a full presentation, even with your sphere and past clients, because, even if they're not interviewing, the fact that you did a full presentation demonstrated your value, answered their questions, told them what's ahead, that you did it right, will help you get a better price, potentially a better commission, and will save a little bit of the stress and anxiety that they might feel in the future. Okay. So Shaun, here's a question that always comes up. Should I go first or last? Well,
good one. Yep.
If I were going to give a quick, easy answer to this question, I'd say probably last, because people forget 90% of what has been said within 24 hours. So you go in and do a magical job and you're first, and they've got 2 more interviews. Now, a week later, they really don't remember what you said. And they might even attribute what you said to someone else. And you might have been the perfect one that tipped them, and now the other one knocks them over and signs them up. So if I had to say, generally, probably last. However, it does depend. If you are a really strong presenter and closer,
Yep.
and I think it also depends on their personality style. Because, Shaun, I'm a high D, and if I had 3 appointments set and you came over and you did a fabulous job and you were number 1 and you closed me and I liked it, I would say yes and have no problem canceling those appointments.
No question.
Okay?
Yep.
If it's a high C, hyper analytical person, they will probably not cancel those appointments, right? And if it's a high S, they will feel very guilty and uncomfortable canceling those appointments, even though they wanted to. But the high DI, driver, influencer, strong personalities, more make a decision, you might be fine with them. High S, very amiable, very sweet. If you go in first, you'll have to help them feel comfortable canceling. You know what I used to say? I would say, well, I know that you feel bad about canceling because you booked that appointment. And yet here's a thought. As real estate professionals, often we don't even get to go home and have dinner with our family. And if you feel comfortable with me today, which you've said you do, and you waste their time to interview them, not only do they not get to go have dinner with their family, but they're gonna be mad, which means they won't be excited about cooperating with us and bringing a buyer. So why don't I do this? Why don't we sign the agreement? I'll call them and let them know I am now your agent. I'll be extremely gracious. I'll invite them to bring their buyers first and foremost to us right away. Let them know we're going to cooperate with them. And now they can go home and have dinner and not waste their time. It's a lot of trouble, but a high S will have a hard time letting go. So you really should be strategic about thinking where you position yourself. And Shaun, I believe that you have the link to our script book, correct?
We do. Yeah. I want to get that to everybody because we talked about that in our last call, and there was a huge demand for the forward coaching script book. So we'll do that. I want to touch on 2 things, Debbie. That you saw a huge grin on my face because that is my favorite part, what you just said about your listing presentation, right? Is if we do go first in some type of listing presentation, that's the opportunity. So if we're strong closers and we're confident in the listing presentation, we do like we can make an argument to go last or to go first, but what you just said is so key if we're first on how we can actually win that listing and let everyone else that's scheduled to let them off the hook, but we'll do it rather than let the owner have to do it, right?
Yep. And Amy, I see your comment about commissions, and I know that's such a big drama right now, right? But I did go to the NAR event, and some of you too may have done that here in Anaheim a couple of weeks ago. And they actually had one of the NAR instructors address this commission drama. And of course, you should each look at what are the instructions of your broker, what are the instructions, of your local board or MLS. No one knows what's going to happen with all of this, if anything's going to happen, how long it's going to take. What they did say at that meeting, though, so this is not me, this is what NAR representatives said. They said, you can't be afraid to talk about commission. It's just how you talk about it, because you have the right to decide as a professional what you're prepared to work for. And so a suggestion they had is when you talk to a seller about commission, to say, Mr. Mrs. Seller, I provide all of these services, and for that, I work for a commission of X percentage. Now, as you know, commission is negotiable by law. This is the percentage that I feel I need to do all of these things for you. And then you, as the seller, decide what you want to pay a selling agent, or if you want to pay a selling agent. And then they said, it's okay to say that, and then to talk about the pros, the cons, the benefits of paying that agent. So it's a really strange time. Look for the guidance of your broker, and yet we have to be prepared to stand up for what you feel you deserve for the services that you provide. Okay. So this is a great question I also like to ask. When I'm on the phone and by the way, in the script book, you're going to see a lot of scripting around this. So Shaun will be sure we get that to them. How to ask if they're interviewing, how to talk about positioning yourself to be last. And one of the questions I like to ask is, what are you hoping to accomplish in this interview process? So I'd say, Shaun, I'm curious, are you interviewing other agents? And if Shaun says, yes, I am, I'm meeting with 3. Okay, let me make a note of that. May I ask you, what are you hoping to accomplish in your interview process? See, some of the guests here might have been with us on the Brevity webinar a minute ago, where we talked about the power of questions. And we want to avoid the word why, because it's confrontational. And we really want to watch our tonality. See, I could say, well, why do you think you need to interview 3 people? Sounds a little confrontational. So Shaun will defend his position or he'll make excuses. But if I just said, I'm curious, what are you looking to accomplish? That might get me into a window of his mind of what's important to him. Well, I want to find the best marketing plan to drive the highest price for my unique home. Ah, interesting. See, now I know. What's a hot button with Shaun? Here's another question I love to ask as you're booking your listing appointment. Tell me, what are your expectations of the sales professional you will hire? Because whatever they say, in NLP, it's called a convincer strategy. That will tell me what's important to him to make a decision. So let's say that Shaun says, well, I'm just going to need to feel that I have a good rapport and relationship with the agent. Like, So I need to take a little more time with Shaun at the appointment. And I might even need to say words like, Shaun, I feel it's going to be really important for us to work as a team, to have a great relationship. May I share with you my thoughts around how I can set up a communication plan that you will feel comfortable with? Now, is Shaun going to remember what he told me when I asked him that question? He probably won't even remember I asked the question. But I need to remember, because that's going to tell me how to customize that presentation.
Powerful words to establish the relationship, right, Debbie?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always like to ask, what is the price that they had in mind? Now, I'm asking that on the phone. I don't need to discuss it with them, right? This is not the time or place. I just need to write it down.
Yep.
Now, if they say to me, well, I don't know, that's why I'm having you over. Absolutely. I will come well prepared to share the data. And some of you may have heard me say on a previous session, I don't use the word comp, because everything we want to do in this multiple interview is about staying in the zone, staying in rapport, selling them the way they want to be sold, standing out as that wise advisor. When I say, Shaun, your home comps to the neighbor, don't they always argue? No, it doesn't. Mine's better, mine's bigger, mine's more updated. So why do we keep doing it? Just stop doing that, right? Instead say, let's look at what the data is indicating. Let's look at what your neighbors have been selling for. See, I just want to stay away from that word comp. So multiple interview, preparation is the key. Over prepare. Do some research on your seller. If you know their profession, you can start to get a vibe of what personality style are they maybe. You want to really go in knowing your stuff. I talk about the Josh story, and I don't even know, I might even have a slide on that in here. Josh Altman from the $1 Million Listing in Beverly Hills. So I coach his friend Ernie Carswell, and my daughter is actually transaction coordinator for Josh. So, we kind of all in that world here in Orange County and LA County. So there was a funny episode of $1 Million Listing. And Josh, if you've ever watched the show, always is dressed in a fancy 3-piece suit with a tie. He comes out to go on a listing appointment, and his wife says, "You can't dress that way. You're going to take a listing at the beach. They don't dress like that at the beach. Go change." So Shawnee went in and put on jeans and a polo and came out and still looked fine, nice, right? He knocks on the door of this high-rise on the sand, high-rise home. Seller opens the door in a 3-piece suit. And the seller looks at Josh and says, "Is that how you dress to take a multi-million-dollar listing?" So the mistake, Josh's wife was on the right track.
She was.
That you need to think and adapt.
Yep.
But what didn't happen here, Josh did not research his seller. Because if he had, he would have discovered that the seller was a banker owning banks all across the world. This was one of many homes, and the seller had never even been in this property. He was not a surfer dude. Okay. So over prepare. I'm a huge fan of a pre-list package. Even if they don't read it, it has what we call thud factor. I'm not recommending that when you go into the actual listing appointment that you take 50 pages of material with you. However, if your brokerage or brand or your team has a fabulous package and it's 50 pages long, perfectly fine to deliver that on the pre-list, the wow factor, the thud factor. And then I would extract from it 10 or 11 pages max that are the heart of who you are, what you do, and why does that matter, right? Now, also, you could customize any information in there if you needed to a little bit to what they said was important. And I like to have, if you have lots of reviews and testimonials, even a separate little package, 100 reasons to list with Shaun Farr. And he's got all the reviews and testimonials. So boom, they get this beautiful package 1, package 2, lays on their coffee table. In my script book, I have a script where I would say, Shaun, I'm going to drop off some really important information. And I know you're really busy, but if you would take 5 or 10 minutes just to flip through it, I think it would really make our appointment together more efficient. Now, when I arrive at the appointment, I'm not going to ask Shaun if he read it, because he'll lie to me, even if he didn't, right? He'll say, "Oh, yeah, I did." And then that might make me feel uncomfortable going over the highlights again. But remember, even if they read it, they forget 90% in 24 hours. So review and refresh the highlights. So don't assume that they understood everything you're going to do. So here's a cool thing at multiple interview. This is an NLP, neuro persuasion technique. Something called a verbal expectation. So Shaun, I'll give you an example. I saw at Thanksgiving the movie Napoleon. And if I said, "Hey, Shaun, you should go see the movie Napoleon. You love to study leaders, and he was a great leader. I think you will absolutely love that movie. You must see it." That's planting of verbal suggestion. See, I'm setting in Shaun's mind a verbal expectation. Because here's the thing, the human brain runs on the negative. So If I don't change his expectation, Shaun would be walking into that movie thinking it probably won't be good. It's all subconscious though, guys, all subconscious. He'll be looking to rule it out. But when I say you're gonna love it, I flip that switch. Now he's going into the theater looking for reasons to love it. So how does this work with a seller on multiple interview? I walk into their entry and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am so excited to be here and meet with you. And I am confident that at the end of our meeting today, you will be certain that of all the agents you're meeting with, that I am the right choice. And I really look forward to seeing your home. Would you please show me your home? See, I keep it kind of light, enthusiastic, but you know what I did? I just flipped that switch in my favor. Now, will Shaun guarantee love the movie Napoleon? No. Will they guarantee love me? No. More likely to. Because see, now they're looking for proof subconsciously to make what I said true. So kind of weird stuff, right, Shaun?
It's the little things, right? You've said 2 or 3 things just in this presentation this morning that help us tweak our presentation to earn those listings, to stay within rapport, to build the relationship. It's huge. It's really good, Debbie.
Well, and I don't want to get on a rant here on a Friday with you guys because you've had an intense week, I'm sure. Here's the thing though. If you're taking 80% of what you go out on, good for you. But why wouldn't you set a goal to take 98.2% of what you go out on? Now, I know it takes work and we might never get there, but just like an athlete, always looking to break their own personal best record, right? And I don't say 100% because there's like a 0.8 that are kind of crazy and you probably don't want that, right? But people will say to me, wow, all these crazy techniques. It's so, I wish I could just do that like you do. But you know what? I didn't know how to do it. My broker nagged me and pushed me and said, you have to study, you have to read books, you have to practice your scripts, you have to have a coach, you have to hone your skill. And that thing about 10,000 hours and you become an expert, there's a little bit of a problem with that though. If you think about even Tiger Woods, as a kid, he played golf all the time. But if he had done it the same way every day, every time, he wouldn't have known his mistakes. But he had a coach, he had many coaches to catch those things and critique and improve them. And that's what I would love for all of you guys to do, is to take on in the next couple of months. I am going to master this listing presentation. I am going to be so flawless that if I want it, it's mine, right? That's my goal for all of you guys. So here's the number one reason though that they may not choose you. And that would be the price. And they like to shoot the messenger. So the tricky thing is right now, it's a moving target, right? Have you guys noticed that you'll list something and you think it's perfect and then it doesn't get offers right away and you have to do a reduction or two? Or you'll list one you think, this thing is going to be hard to sell, and it sells right away. So with inventory being as lean and as low as it is, and sellers kind of still being hung up on thinking they're going to get 20 bids, that middle ground is you might have to take some listings higher than you want to take them, right? And I also feel that if I go in and I say to a seller, hey, Shaun, your house is worth $750,000. And Shaun's like, well, wait, I want 8. Well, is he going to list with me? And I say, well, we can try it. Is he going to like it when I say that? No. So be careful. Show them the data. Because guess what? Not you, not an appraiser, not a single one of us know exactly what that home is worth. because it's all a moment in time in the market and that right buyer and how motivated Shaun is. So I like to present the data, go over it with Shaun, and then say, Shaun, as we think about how to price the home, there are 3 pricing strategies we could consider. Strategy number 1, price to the data. Strategy number 2, price below the data to spark multiple bids. Strategy number 3, price as high as the market might bear, pushing on that ceiling, knowing we might have to adjust the price if the market doesn't respond. So, Shaun, based on your motivation, which strategy do you prefer? And then I'm going to ask him, based on the data, did you have a price in mind of where you'd like to begin? And if his price is crazy, I can work with him and talk to him. Why not let him say what he wants? Now, if he says, well, I don't know, what do you recommend? Well, if we're going to do the strategy number 1, price to the data, that's going to put us in a range of X to X. So where in that range would you prefer to begin? See, again, if I can engage him, I tenderize him. And even now, we need to have our best methods to handle commission, your commission, what you deserve to earn. And then, Shaun, this is my favorite transition to the close. So let's say we've done a multiple interview. Whether I'm first, last, or second, doesn't matter. I am going to close you. So as we go through all of this data, I'm going to say, Shaun, let's talk about, by when would you like your home sold to the right buyer? See, don't ask, do you have any more questions? That's not the right moment to ask that. Don't say, I hope you'll choose me. That sounds wimpy and needy. Don't say, I look forward to hearing from you when you finish your interviews. And you know what? Don't say, when do you want your home on the market? Because they dread that, right? So they delay. Instead, by when would you like your home sold to the right buyer? Well, Shaun, based on that, here's what we should do next. And I'm going to close them. Now, if they resist, we want to be prepared to dig back in by asking more great questions and close again graciously. And Shaun, in my script book, everything we covered today, but more. How to ask if they're interviewing, how to position yourself to be last if you want to be. Also, how to go deeper with the questions without being offensive or rude or pushy, so that you can discover a way to go back and close them again. And sometimes they're just not going to do it. They're just not going to sign on the dotted line. So then I think of it as, take it as far as you can. If they're not willing to sign, set a time to come back. You know what I used to say on the multiple interview, Shaun? I would say, I'm going to go back to the office now that I've seen the property and understand your needs, and I'm going to do some more work. I'm going to work on some additional strategies. And all I would ask is, please don't sign a listing until you give me just 10 minutes to come back and share these extra strategies. And when should we book that appointment for? So that's always in my head. I want to get it signed. If I can't get it signed, I know I need to get myself back to the table. Then I'll send a thank you note, and then I'm going to follow up. And sometimes we're going to lose. So if they don't choose you, ask them. I'm always looking to improve my skill and ability. And I'm curious, what caused you not to choose me? And please feel free to be direct. It would be very helpful for me to understand. But then take it with a grain of salt, okay? Because as much as I want to ask that, what they tell you may not always be the real truth. So just take it with a grain of salt,
Yep.
and then be gracious, and this is my line. I'd say, I will admit I am disappointed because I was very excited about working for you and getting your home sold. I respect your decision though, and I want to let you know if for any reason something does not work out, the door is always open. I would love to help you. Because, sometimes if it expires or that situation fails, then they feel too embarrassed to come back. So I want to make sure I make that clear. Okay. And then ask yourself, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What will I do better in the future? And then let it go. Let it go and move on. So Shaun, if they need some help getting ready for the year ahead, need some great coaching around some of these high-level skills, they can just scan that QR code. I'll get on the phone and talk to them. And I just am so excited that they're here, and I hope they just take some action, and you'll make sure they get the scripts, right?
Make sure they get the scripts. Debbie, we appreciate this. This is a huge reminder to each of us that our words matter and what we say matter. And we can just tweak even one question that can really result in a listing presentation going the right way for us. It really kind of makes an impact also to a lot of folks out there. And there's a few hundred people today. We just want to remind you that we all need a coach. I need a coach. Debbie, you need a coach. We all need a coach. Yep. And Forward Coaching is there to help you. This is a great time of year to remind you on those things. Debbie, also real quick, I know you need to run, but you mentioned DISC today. And I'd love to remind a lot of the people here a little bit more about DISC. And I think I'd love to do that in January sometime if you'd be willing to do that.
I'll make a note of that and we'll go circle back to that and work on it.
On those good reminders.
Thank you, Amy. Good to see you there. All right, guys, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.